We are the top organization in the United States for suicide prevention. We have never lost a veteran to suicide, and at current rates, unfortunately, the U.S. is experiencing 44 military service members a day committing suicide. So our record is now the gold standard.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I served in the United States Army for just under 4 years. From 2009 to 2013, I was an infantryman soldier. In 2011, I was involved in a training accident, which was a vehicle rollover. It resulted in me breaking my back and having a traumatic brain injury. Since then, I have suffered from tension headaches and back pain, which has affected my sleep at night. It was very stressful living with this back injury and neck injury. Dealing with headaches on a daily basis becomes frustrating. I didn't have any way to deal with it. I've tried, countless medications, VA visits, and there was no progress with that. I was introduced to the Brain Boost back in January by a great team. When I use it, I can tell a significant difference in my mood, my stress, and the headaches throughout the day. The headaches are the big part of what I struggle with. And since using the Brain Boost, I have had great progress with those, which also helps my sleep at night.
Hi, my name is Louis Romeo. I served in the Marine Corps from 2008 to 2012. My job in the military was 3051. I was a warehouse clerk or a warehouseman. So anything having to do with receiving, maintaining, and shipping military equipment. In 2011, I deployed to Sangin Valley, Afghanistan, where I was mostly involved with maintaining security for my fellow Marines. While I was deployed, I lost somebody who was very important to me, and it sent me down, spiraling downward out of control psychologically. So that downward spiral continued for years after service. I got involved with reckless behavior just to take my mind off of the depression that I was going through, cycles of depression that never seemed to stop. And so I kept on chasing things that would, make life interesting, I guess, while I had that state of mind. So reckless behavior, partying a lot, just doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. So I finally hit rock bottom. I knew something needed to change. And through networking, I met somebody who eventually introduced me to Great Team, brought me here to the facility. I fell in love with everything here, and this is where my healing started. One of the tools that I used while I was here was the Weber helmet, and since the first time I started using it, it was like flipping a light switch. It was dark before, and the light bulbs went off. No more depression, elevated mood. My work ethic improved. The way that I communicated and interacted with people also improved, and it's just been overall mental improvement. I would definitely recommend this helmet for anyone, regardless, of your military service or non-military service. If it helped me, I believe it can help anyone.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Light Medicine podcast. Today I'm very happy that we have the founder of Great Team, Mr. Cary Reichbach, on our podcast. Yeah, Great Team is a very special veteran organization doing wonderful work for veterans in the US, like fighting post-traumatic stress disorders, doing suicide prevention, and a lot of great stuff. And they are using photobiomodulation for quite a while now. And yeah, actually, I'm also looking forward to this discussion and his overall feedback now on the impact of light technologies on mental health of the veterans. So yeah, thank you again for being our guest today. And let's start by you just telling us a little bit about yourself, your background, and of course on Great Team's work and mission.
Absolutely, Robert. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored to be a part of your information gathering team. I think that Great Team, this is our 10th year anniversary, and we have been using photobiomodulation for 10 years now. And we've had nothing but amazing success with it, absolutely amazing. It has helped our military service members heal so many different ailments that they've had. We've dropped inflammation, we've dropped pain levels, and of course, like traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress are tremendous causes of suicidal ideation. And with the WeberBrain helmet, we've actually been able to stop that brain inflammation in its tracks and reverse it. So very, very, very fond of the science and the technology, and it is something that we use regularly. In the 10 years that we've been here, we have seen just over 1,300 through our program, and we provided services to them. And we are the top organization in the United States for suicide prevention. We have never lost a veteran to suicide, and at current rates, unfortunately, the U.S. is experiencing 44 military service members a day committing suicide. So our record is now the gold standard.
Oh, that's very impressive. Yeah, can you tell us a bit more about your program and the other things you are doing for your veterans?
Absolutely. So our program typically consists of 90 days, and it is all complimentary. There is no cost for anyone to ever go through it as long as they served either in the United States military or in one of our allies worldwide. And we typically cover everything. We will, of course, do photobiomodulation, but we also have huge interest in nutritional, fitness component. We do cryotherapy, we do cold plunge, we do infrared detoxification, we have pulsed electromagnetic frequency, we have vibroacoustic electromagnetic infrared beds, hyperbaric medicine, molecular hydrogen inhalation, pretty much a biohacker's dream, all under one roof. And we're constantly pushing the envelope to engage more tech companies in figuring out, how to basically elevate the human experience through technology. And we've been very, very fortunate. We have a lot of support from the tech companies, of course, including Weber. And you've been with us since the very beginning. So if I haven't said it before, I just want to thank you guys. You have believed in us and you have supported us for the last 8 years. So it's most appreciated.
Yeah, of course. We right from the beginning, your concept and your work, looked very impressive and fascinating for us. And of course, we're getting good or important feedback also from you, because you're like also the first organization really putting together those protocols for mental health of vulnerable people. So I think it's very important, and we are happy to contribute to this mission, I would say. So about the background of your organization, coming back to that from the beginning. So you said you started about 10 years ago, but how did you come into this health field, I would say? Do you have any background in this area, or was it more like, you got interested in technologies on improving health, or what was the initial point?
That's a great question. So the truth is, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was much more comfortable holding a weapon than any type of health technology. But that all changed during the transition process to go from the military into the civilian world. It's a very, very difficult transition to make. A lot of people who haven't actually worn a uniform, they don't really understand that it's much more than a job. So to take you back through the history, one of the things people don't understand who haven't served in the military is it's a 24-hour occupation. It's not like a regular job. You don't go home at night. You are on constantly. So cortisol levels spike. You're either on a mission or you're training for a mission. And training for war is very dangerous work. You know, you're subjected to all kinds of dangers, including, you know, inhalation of toxins from explosions, you know, depending on what your job is in the military. And there's a wide amount of things that you can do, but all of them, you're training for war. And war is a dangerous business. So whether you deploy or not, or whether you actually see combat, it doesn't matter. People die in training accidents constantly, you know, helicopter crashes, vehicle rollovers, you know, a parachute not opening. So it's a constant thing just to stay alive during your military service. And that doesn't even touch on the sleep factors, which, you know, anyone who's involved in the health field knows that we're just finding out how important sleep is. So recuperative sleep, you know, actually allows the mind to rebuild and brain cells to come back online. And one of the issues with military service, mine included, is there are people all around the world on a 24-hour cycle working, and they don't sleep like a normal civilian will. You know, especially, I'll give you an example. If you're assigned on a nuclear submarine, okay, it doesn't come up for air. It's on a patrol for 8 to 9 months at a time. So there is no daylight. There is no typical circadian rhythm for your body. You know, it's divided into shifts. There's the submarine is nuclear, so somebody's manning the reactor, somebody's running it 24/7, and everything's in shifts. So even when you're not working, if you were to try to sleep, there are constantly PA announcements coming in about check this, check that. There's no ability to turn off the lights and everybody just relax and go to sleep. It doesn't happen. So you sleep very lightly, if at all. And because you don't get the incredible blue light of the morning to reset your circadian clock, and you don't get the amber light in the evening in order to prepare your body for sleep, you know, you're only getting that bright blue LED lighting that's inside a submarine 24/7. So already your circadian rhythms are completely out of whack. You don't know if it's day or night. You're submerged for months at a time. And when you come home from that, your body doesn't completely snap back. It's damaged now. And in order to reset all that, it takes quite a bit of technology. So for myself, coming back from that type of environment where you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off, your cortisol level is constantly spiked, you're in fight or flight quite a bit, and you don't just turn that off. You can't. You know, your vagal nerve system is completely out of whack. And so one of my issues was, how do I become a civilian again? And that's a universal problem against anyone who's ever served in the military, is how do you transition back to civilian life? So you're losing your health, you're losing your purpose. You know, your whole identity is tied to being a soldier. You have all these people around you as support, and suddenly they're gone. So you're all alone. You know, you don't know why you can't sleep. If you've been blown up or subjected to any type of post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, your brain isn't working properly. That inflammation will actually cause anything beyond that area, any of the brain cells beyond that area, to be starved for oxygen. They're hypoxic. And unfortunately, those brain cells begin to die off. The good news is it's fixable. The brain will repair itself, but only if you drop that inflammation. And you don't know that when you come out of the military. It's such a steady decline, slow and steady, that you don't even notice why. You just losing vocabulary, losing neurocognitive skills. And it's very frustrating. You can't pull words out, your vocabulary is slipping, and it becomes very difficult to hold a job, to concentrate. But it's such an insidiously slow process that you can't put your finger on why your brain doesn't work. You just know that it isn't. And that's one of the leading causes of suicide. So putting all that together, the loss of camaraderie, the loss of purpose, the loss of passion, and one of the things we really have to talk about, which is just the way it is, you know, our world is controlled a lot by capitalism. And of course, the big pharmaceutical drug companies, Merck, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Glaxo, like all of them make money by selling drugs, okay? Capitalism is the best system we have. Is it perfect? Absolutely not, but it's real. And if you cure somebody, then they don't need drugs. Unfortunately, there's a lot of money in selling drugs. You know, we're all familiar with that, you know. And in the US, it's legal actually to advertise drugs on television and do commercials on radio and television. You know, ask your doctor if you should be taking blah, blah, blah. You know, maybe it's right for you. And you don't even know if you have this disease. A lot of them are just created out of thin air, but now you're worried, oh my God, I need to go buy this thing. So veterans are no different, okay? We're subject to that. When we get out of the military, we're giving antipsychotics, we're given anti-anxiety pills, we're giving antidepressants, we're giving sleeping pills because our circadian rhythms are messed up, and then we're given pills to undo the side effects from those pills. So it's not atypical for someone to get 7 prescriptions when they leave military service. And basically what we're doing is we're numbing you down. If we're numbing you down, you don't notice that all of these changes have taken place. You don't notice that you don't sleep. You don't notice that your brain isn't working properly, because you're basically just numb. You don't experience any joy, but you don't experience depression. You're just kind of flatlining. And that in and of itself will lead to a life with no purpose, no passion, and that leads to suicide also. So I personally had to overcome that, and on top of that, I had a good friend who was a U.S. Marine, had done 2 combat tours to Afghanistan. His marriage fell apart. He was in debt. He couldn't hold a job. He couldn't concentrate or go to college. And again, you know, the only answer that seems logical is suicide, because what's the point of moving forward? You know, nothing works in your life. It's gone. And we came up with, well, if we can't do it the way the government wants it done, if we can't do it with pills, and the government doesn't really know much about photobiomodulation or any of these advancements, let's research it ourselves and figure out a cure and how to get through this. And that was kind of the impetus back in 2016 when we started this. If we can figure it out, this is probably something that we can direct. We can build this pathway, and we can allow others to go through this also, because we owe it to them. And hopefully we can put a big dent in that 44 that are taking their lives every day. And that was really the start. And as we've progressed, a lot of technology companies have jumped on board, because veterans and service members are subjected to some of the most, extreme things that a human being can be subjected to. And if we can fix them, then imagine the implications for the civilian world, where things are not taken to that level. So, of course, you were one of the first tech companies to jump on board, but since then, we've had so many reach out to us that actually our facility is almost too small to be able to hold all of the tech that is being donated to us. We're running out of room, which is a great problem to have, but also a terrible problem to have, because we want to embrace these new technologies. We're actually getting a cold plasma bed delivered to us next month, and we have to find room to put it. The technology is amazing. The research on it is real, but it's a giant piece of equipment, and we have to find room for it. So that kind of takes you through the spectrum. We just keep accumulating more and more technologies, and as newer models come out, we replace the older ones with the newer tech. So we're in a very blessed situation that I think a lot of for-profits would not be able to be in, where we don't actually purchase new equipment. It is supplied to us. And a perfect example is this brain helmet from Weber. We had one of the original ones from 8 or 9 years ago, and we found fantastic results from it. The new one is actually interesting because a lot of people didn't feel, they knew the older brain helmet was working, but they couldn't put their finger on the exact, how do I want to put this, the feeling that they got while it was operating. They felt better afterwards, but they didn't actually feel an effect during their use of it. And this one is more powerful. They're experiencing an instant pain relief from headaches, migraines, things like that, and also just a clearing of brain fog and things like that. But it happens so quickly now. So the new one, very, very effective, and so far we absolutely love it.
Okay, yeah, thank you, especially for telling us more about this background. I think that's very interesting for many people to hear, like getting real insights from a veteran about those stories. I cannot really imagine how difficult it is for those people coming back for the war, but it's really wonderful, the things you are doing, and we are always happy to support you on this way. And you're still in your location. I've been there, I think once or twice. It's still in Boca in Florida, right?
That is correct. Yes, we actually held your one of your laser summits here.
Yes, I remember that,
which we found fascinating and love to do it again, although you guys have grown so big that I don't think we could hold the amount of people who are now following your experimentation and work into research with light. But we found it fascinating, and I think that more and more practitioners are beginning to embrace light therapy because it is so beneficial, and at the same time, there's no contraindications. Everybody just gets better from it. You're doing no harm. And I think that's amazing, because we're actually experiencing in the United States the approval of certain hallucinogens for to work with PTSD. And unfortunately, you can't say the same thing about, even though it's plant medicine, it is still a drug. It may be a drug that's grown by a plant, but it's still a drug. And not everyone has the positive experience. Most do, but there are some that don't. And one of the things I can say about light therapy is it's all positive. You either get a benefit from it or you don't, but you never ever are pushed backwards. You're never ever doing harm. And I think that is one of the key components of light therapy that people need to understand.
Right, yeah. And just one more question on your organization. Great Team is not a government-funded organization, right?
That is correct. We don't receive any funding from the federal government. We basically run completely on corporate donations, foundations, and of course private citizens who understand that freedom isn't free. And if you turn on the news and you see, around the world, there are all these conflicts, there's constant fighting somewhere on the planet. And, most of us sleep very well in our homes, and we don't really think about that 24 hours a day, there are people out there on this globe making sure that we sleep soundly at night, and we take it for granted. And we really shouldn't, because it's one of those things that, until you lose it, you don't really realize that you have that advantage. You go to sleep at night and there's no rockets coming in, that are possibly gonna destroy your building, or you don't have to run to a shelter early in the morning or in the middle of the night in order to escape an attack. So I think that a lot of private individuals understand how important that is, that there are these people out there, that they are sacrificing for them. And they're not just numbers, they're sons and daughters, they're mothers and fathers. They're part of our community, and it's up to the community to actually take care of them. So we have a lot of patriotic individuals all over the planet who really do appreciate the incredible freedoms that were granted by living in a democracy, and so they come to our galas, which we hold 3 of them a year, and I think that they donate. They're very, very, very appreciative of what we do. Of course, there are the tech companies. It's really an all-around community effort in order to support these individuals, because they swore to defend freedom, and the very least we owe them is to make them whole again after they come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also why I asked, because I thought I remember that you're mostly privately funded. So yeah, because we also have a lot of listeners, of course, from the US or from all over the world, also corporate people, patients, doctors. So yeah, I just recommend to everyone who's interested in your work, they can check your website and yeah, support your work. I think that's very important.
I appreciate that. Anyone who is interested in learning more can go to greyteam.org. That's greyteam.org. And of course, everyone is welcome to our galas. We do 3 of them a year. All that information is also on the website, and they are, spectacular. And I don't say that just because I helped put them together, but they are probably the most interesting experiences. Because we're all military, we get to do fun stuff like rappel from the ceiling and parachute in, and we do some really nice things that you would never see at a gala for cancer or heart disease or something like that. So it is a really cool experience. If you haven't come, and you haven't come, Robert, then
Yeah,
I
I have
think
to.
we should see you in December on the 3rd.
Yeah, I will check the dates and hope I can be there in the future for sure.
It sounds great. Thank
Yeah,
you so
so
much.
yeah, of course, we will share this information. But now, yeah, coming towards the end, maybe you can share a little bit more or tell us a couple of success stories. That's what people always like to hear. I know we will get some testimonial videos from you, which we will include in this podcast. But maybe from your personal experience, some success stories which really blew your mind in the beginning, where you really saw, okay, this is working, this technology, yeah, might be a game changer for mental health.
Absolutely. There are so many, and I will definitely give you some testimonials that you can add to this podcast. But I think some of the ones that have stuck out to me is one of our individuals who retired from the military after, I believe, 26 years, if I'm not mistaken. And what we talked about just now, 26 years of being in that institution, of constantly, commanding men, sometimes to death, to have that responsibility and that structure and that purpose in your life, and then suddenly you retire, and it sounds like the greatest thing in the world when you're first contemplating that I don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and run 5 miles anymore. I'm not going to be deployed to different third world countries and do kind of craziness, fighting. I'm basically going to be able to come home, sleep late, and take care of my children and take them to school in the morning like a normal person, and actually, be there for their birthdays and their graduations. So we had one individual who was so looking forward to his time to be able to do just that, sleep late, take his daughter to school in the morning. And the first 2 weeks were like heaven, just fantastic. And then slowly, that joy faded into, okay, now I've taken care of my morning. What do I do for the rest of the day? What purpose do I have? I have served in the military for all these years. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm completely just cut loose, like a boat with no engine, just floating on the ocean. And that led to a darkness where this individual spent more and more time sitting alone in his garage during the day, drinking and ruminating about decisions that he had made in the past and lives that had been lost along the way. And eventually, he was in such a dark place that his wife walked in on him, and he was sitting on the floor with a pistol to his head, and he actually squeezed the trigger, but moved the gun away at the last second and shot a round up into the ceiling of his garage. And unbeknownst to him, his wife had seen this slow progression into darkness and had reached out to Gray Team without his knowledge. And actually, we called him that morning, and he had picked up his phone, and he said he never answered unknown numbers, but he answered that number that she had given us. And we invited him in, and he skyrocketed. In 90 days, he went through the program, and he was a completely new person, doing so well that we actually offered him a job, and he is now one of our people. He takes our team members and people who have graduated, he takes them through these outdoor experiences, because he used to be an instructor teaching people how to survive in the desert and the jungles in South America, and now he takes them on these excursions for a week, and everybody gets to, again, get together and experience camaraderie and use their newfound skills that they've gotten from the Great Team program to their benefit. So it's an amazing success story. I will send you a video. It was such a great story that we actually recreated it on video, but we didn't want to use him as the main character because we didn't want him to relive it. But we did film it inside of his garage with his wife, and we used somebody else to stand in for his main character.
Okay, yeah, thank you for sharing such a story. I think that's very fascinating, and I also found it very, encouraging what you said in the beginning, like when it's so, or has such strong impacts on people which are in such a darkness, in such an advanced mental health issues, then it should be promising or should give hope to so many people suffering from mental health. Not everybody is in this very deep darkness like such a veteran, but so many people are suffering from anxiety, from depression, and I feel like if it's really working in such difficult patients, then it should give hope to so many people. And latest estimates are telling us that we have close to 1 billion people worldwide suffering from some sort of mental issues like depression, anxiety, and things like that. So the data you're collecting, the testimonials you're collecting are so important for us and for all the people also outside this veteran or military world.
And that's so true. I mean, post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury are not limited to military personnel. A bad car accident, soccer players, football players, all kinds of people are affected by post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. And certainly the data that we're collecting and the lessons that we're learning here at Great Team can be applied to all of those individuals, and we can heal them without the use of pharmaceutical drugs, which I think is one of the best things that's ever come out of this program.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good conclusion. Yeah, and also to add to that, most of the data you collected so far had been done with the older technology, what you also already spoke about. We had very good success even with the kind of limited LED technology in the past, but now with a more powerful laser device with deeper penetration into the brain, I guess you would also expect better, faster outcomes, right? What you already mentioned, that they feel something right away. So we are also very much looking forward to getting data and testimonials now for this new device from you, because you're basically also the first one in this mental health field collecting data on that with the new technology.
Well, that's amazing, and thank you for trusting us with that new technology. I think it's going to be a game changer. I would love to see, more and more clinics utilizing it, because, again, there is no contraindication. You either experience nothing or you get better. And with the new helmet, we haven't had anyone experience nothing. Everyone feels it now, and that's a huge thing for us, because there are so many devices out there, as you well know, and many of them are underpowered. Many of them don't do what they say they will do, and so when you feel something working, you're going to continue to use it. And of course, these things have a cumulative effect. It's not one and done. It needs to be used regularly until, the inflammation has decreased enough and we get enough blood flow that we're actually healing the brain, that these these tissues that were damaged are all coming alive. They're getting oxygen again, and they're reborn. But you have to stay with a consistent program. And I think, this is a huge success now that you can feel it working. So you're going to continue to use it. And I congratulate you on that development.
Yeah, thank you so much again. And yeah, we are really looking forward to get this feedback. This whole mental health field is very important also for myself. I know many people also who had big issues with mental health in the past. And I feel like this is really a big indication where we can do a lot of good things for people. And therefore, I'm so happy and grateful for this collaboration with you.
Right back at you, Robert. I appreciate it from this side as well.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, and typically at the end, I always ask people to share their contact information. We already talked about that. You mentioned your website, so people can check your work. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience?
No, I just want to thank you for believing in our program from the very beginning. I want to thank Weber Medical for continuing to do the research, to continuing to evolve and not just rest on your merits, but I know that you guys are all over the world talking to practitioners everywhere, taking their bits of data and information and constantly improving and upgrading the devices that you have. And it's for the sake of humanity. So I appreciate what you do, and as I'm sure all of your other practitioners do as well. And I wish you guys continued success.
Thank you very much. Same to you, of course. And yeah, we really appreciate everything you do and everything you just said. So thank you again for being our guest today. And yeah, I hope to see you soon again in Florida, maybe at your event, or probably we will also do another educational event in Florida next year, but I will let you know. Maybe you can also join us and give a little input again, like what you did in the past. So we stay in touch for sure.
Sounds great. Thank you again.